What's up, everybody, and welcome in to another edition of Big Men on Basketball. It is Monday, February 6th, 2023. Another big Monday is here, though it's not a real big Monday just yet. We are back another week, another dollar here on the Barstool Sportsbook YouTube channel. I am your host, Jeff Nadu, and as you know, we're here every day, Monday through Friday, 4 o'clock Eastern, breaking down the card in college hoops. Our good friend Kelly in Vegas is back joining us for a few shows this week. Kelly, how are you? Super Bowl week, Chiefs, Eagles. We're actually going to talk about that at the end of the show. How you doing?
I'm doing really well. Just got done doing money shots with Megan and Mintz. Touch on a little NBA. I got an NBA play for tonight. I got a college basketball play for tonight. I got a couple of game plays for the Super Bowl. But that's really about it. It's kind of a interesting day. The card's not really great, but we're going to find some little nuggets. There's two small schools I wanted to ask you about that I got text about. And usually when that guy and you agree, equals a little bit of money. So those guys in the comment section that love those small schools that I could give a fuck about, Jeff usually has something funny. And then even Megan's over here breaking down Tarleton State because some asshole on Twitter was like asking her about it. I'm like, Megan, I could not even tell you what state that school's in. And she just had to laugh. Yeah, of course. They're the Texans. I Googled it. But the point is prior to that, I didn't know.
They are 0-7 on the road this year. Tonight, I actually think they will win. Not a real, it's a road spot, but it's only about an hour away, so it's not too bad. But
yeah, we should talk about that as well and seeing these home road splits. I feel like they're really strong this year. And I know obviously during COVID, things got a little skewed with no fans at some arenas, fans at some other, whatever. But it's kind of interesting because in the Big 12, it's just like, yeah, the road team may cover, but they're not going in and winning outright, or at least they haven't been.
No, I mean, listen, I always tell you, betting on home teams is the way to go. I think we both know that. I'll tell you what, on Saturday I had a winning day. I've had a lot of winning days on Saturday because of, just spotting those spots. Yep. And you and I talked about it on Saturday, the Indianas, the Oklahoma States,
Virginia Tech,
Virginia Tech, St. Mary's, teams that, are at home and, they just
Mississippi
a lot of the
State.
time. Yeah, they're just those, and that's why I love Saturday, man, because you have those like huge cards you kind of really key in on stuff. But yeah, we have a couple tonight, as many of you know. Monday's not a real deep card, but there are some interesting spots on the smaller card. We have two, we have one ACC, one Big 12, kind of wet our whistle with. Remember last Monday night was that wild game between Iowa State and Texas Tech. And by the way, Iowa State followed it up with a blowout win against Kansas over the weekend.
Yes, they did. And they were on my list and I wussed out. And listen, KU's not immune anymore. It seems like to be able to go
that was the one
these hostile environments.
I think you and I, like, if there was one of those games this weekend that I didn't like, I almost wanted to play Kansas just because I don't know. I didn't know how good Iowa State was. That was one game where I didn't play either, luckily. But yeah, it's a weird conference, man. You have one night where Iowa State blows a 20-point lead and is super dejected, and then several days later they blow out Kansas. So, it is what it is, I guess. But we'll get into a little Super Bowl as well, you and I. I'm starting to kind of feel like I know how this game's going to go, and maybe we'll see if you agree.
Do you agree with Stephen Che that the Eagles by 10+? That was the most egregious take I've seen on the internet so far.
I don't think here's what I'll say. And let's wait. I want you to ask me that again because I do have an opinion on it. And I think I'm going to kind of look at it a different way. But welcome into everybody. As always, thank you for watching. If you like the show, you like any of the shows here, make sure you're hitting the like button. And make sure if you're new around here, you subscribe. The quickest way to grow a channel and to get these shows really rolling is by subscribing, telling people you like. Make sure you're sharing it on Twitter. I'm not the best in the world at YouTube, but I have built a pretty good YouTube channel on another piece of content that I do. So I feel like I've figured out YouTube. So I'm hoping you all take my word and do that. All right, let's get into the games today. By the way, Kelly, you had Nebraska yesterday. Very nice call by you.
I did. Thank you. That was kind of one of those really gross, ugly home underdogs that normally I pick out during college football season that everybody's like, oh, get away from me. You're disgusting. And there wasn't a lot of hate in the comment section. And I was really surprised to see Nebraska win that one outright. I figured they'd do something stupid, choke it up late and end up losing at home. But they pretty much covered and won the game outright, wire to wire. There was maybe 2 minutes left where they were only up maybe like 5 or 6. But other than that, Corn looks good. Doesn't mean I'm going to rush to back them again anytime soon. I just thought that was a really good spot for them.
Guys, again, you want to make your opinion felt. I'm glad. I want to hear it. Do not say things that are not true. I didn't play Penn State, never said I played Penn State, never said I was ever going to play Penn State. This is completely untrue. Stop doing that, Ryan. It's not right. If Kelly didn't bet Wright State on Saturday, you shouldn't be telling her she did. Didn't happen. I don't know where you come up
with how people love to do that. And listen, I think maybe sometimes I'll give these guys the benefit of the doubt, maybe because we talked about a game and an opinion was gave.
Find me a show where I said I didn't even do a show yesterday.
Oh, yeah, Sunday. Okay, then that's just egregious. Ryan, don't be a dickhead.
It's a blatant lie. It
yeah,
never happened.
I just mean like if you and I are talking about games on Spaces and I'm like, I could be persuaded to bet this team. And then all of a sudden it's like, well, Kelly said she liked. And it's like, whoa,
Ryan,
whoa.
You blatantly lied and then said, my bad. You blatantly lied. You made it up.
Oh, boy.
It's how is that? It's like you're the victim. You're not a victim, Ryan. You made it up. Nebraska unders are 18-6 on the year. Yeah. Wow. I'll tell you what, I mean, that's a tough job, Nebraska basketball. I guess you could do all you can, I guess, but yeah, that's a good mark on them, 18-6. That's very good under stuff. All right, let's get into today's card. Kelly's been hot. Good. I'm glad to hear it. Maybe she'll give us something that she likes tonight. Let's start it out with Miami and Duke. One game that I played on Saturday that I didn't play a full unit, but I did play, and that was Clemson at home against Miami. I have to admit, I was very impressed with Miami. It seemed like Clemson just kept trying to get right there. And as soon as they got within one or two, Clemson, then they go down by 4 or 5. Miami just withstood all the kind of fight back that Clemson had. And Miami still continues to be a very quiet team. We're not really talking about. Are they the best team in the ACC, possibly outside of Virginia?
They might be. Initially, I had texted you about Jim Laranga's team tonight versus Duke, and I thought maybe Duke had somewhat turned a corner, right? Like they played a top 25 team in Wake Forest, pretty close to the top 25 team in North Carolina, and now they're going on the road to Miami. I thought, okay, let's try to make a case for this Duke Blue Devils team. And ultimately, I wasn't able to. I think what Jim Larong has done in Miami has been nothing short of incredible. I think one could definitely argue they're one of the best teams in the ACC, if not the best team in the ACC. And that's just because they do a couple things right, mainly on the offensive side of the ball. If they get hot from three, it's going to be a long day for Duke. We know that they're one of the best free throw shooting teams in the country. We know they have one of the best adjusted offenses. They also are one of the most experienced teams in the country, Jeff. And ultimately, I leaned Duke when I first looked at it. I sent that to you this morning along with the next game we'll get to. But I think it's Miami or pass here.
Yeah, I mean, I just overall, I look at Duke. I don't think they're very good on the road. I look at what they did Saturday night. I mean, by the way, I don't want to hear how look. It's a good historical rivalry. It's not so much anymore.
Yeah,
which is funny because I made the case in that rivals draft we did on the Dog Walk that it's a good rivalry. It has lost its luster though, and you look at the other night. Here's case in point what I'm talking about when it comes to Duke. Duke shoots 15 free throws. You know how many Carolina shot? 3.
There you go. There's the difference maker.
Plus, Carolina was 7 for 27 from 3. Let's stop acting like Duke was so much better than them. They were losing at the half. With 5 or so minutes to go, they were losing. I think Duke just was the less inept team in the game and definitely had some home cooking. You shoot 12 more free throws than your opponent, you are going to win. And it's pretty simple.
Oh, that's a fact. And you talk about teams that, need free throws to win and or cover games, and you're not always going to get those. And Duke definitely was on the receiving side. Duke's covered one game this year on the road, Jeff, and that just makes them just very unappealing for me. Now, I know we're betting numbers, not teams here, and I did make this game 3, and I thought maybe I could find some value if we saw Duke get to +4.
I think one of the issues I have with Duke, and look, I like their bigs. I mean, guys like, Whitehead and Filipkowski, I like those guys, but I don't think their guard plays great. I mean, this team struggled with turnovers all year. And one thing I know about Miami, and this is a team in the futures market I think you should keep an eye on because we know they have the ability. They've done it before. I'll tell you what, Nigel Pack is terrific. He is a great player.
I miss him so much.
Yeah, he's a great player.
And that says a lot.
he took and he did some things on Saturday in that game against Clemson that won them the game. I'll tell you another thing. This gets overshadowed as well. There's a guy on Miami, Wooga Poplar. He did an incredible job on Hunter Tyson in that game against Clemson. This is a really well-coached, good basketball team. Throw in the fact that Ormir is a really good big. I think he can kind of deal with some of the Filipowski lively stuff. I think I can't get involved with Duke on the road. I think it's Miami to me or pass. I didn't ultimately get there with this game. Maybe in a money line role with maybe something else. I'll tell you another game I like is Southern. I think you pair them together, money line par. I think that's a job that probably gets done. But yeah, I don't want to take Duke. Numbers down to 3. Even at that point, I made this 3.5. I think the number's right. I don't see much value in it personally.
Yeah, I'm with you. Like I said, initially I tried to make a case for the Blue Devils, but the more that I got to looking at it, it's just not a game I really want to get involved in here.
No, and someone's saying, how do you lay points to Duke? They're not laying points. They're a dog. But yeah, again, that glaring 13th in the ACC in turnover rate, 170th nationally for Duke. I'll keep saying this, and I remember saying this in non-conference. If you generally just play the team with better guard play, you will win. Miami has better guard play. Nigel Pack is better than Jeremy Roach. He just is. Sorry.
Could you imagine if Nigel was still on that K-State team? I'm so sad.
Well, let me ask you, who would you rather have, Noel or Pack? Because Noel's pretty damn good himself.
Okay, listen, Marquise Noel and Keontae Johnson are like the dynamic duo. I do like that, but to be able to have, I feel like Nigel is almost, and this is maybe the wrong terminology, but like a better plug-and-play player. Does that make sense? Like I feel like when K-State sucked and Bruce Weber was the coach, he was just there when you needed him. Does that make sense? Like Keontae is kind of like that now. He just is there. He's there to make big shots, big dunks. Like, he's there to get the crowd into it. Nigel was just like, you knew what you were getting from him game in and game out, and you could really count on him to take over. And I'm not saying you can't get that with Marquise Noel and Keontae Johnson, because you can, but just having him being on that team, I think that's what my little purple heart is wishing for. That's all.
They're both really good. It's funny. Noel's come a long way too, because when he was at Little Rock, he was essentially kicked off the team for his behavior. So, I mean, he's a little guy, but he is a real diminutive player, and they're both great. I mean, I just think the difference in this game is Miami. I think Pack is really good, and again, like some of their defenders on the perimeter and that sort of thing. So, yeah, I would lean with Miami here. Didn't get there with it though. All right, let me get into some smaller conferences, then we'll get into Kansas, Texas.
I've got one for you if you end up not covering it, because I am going to probably bet it because I do trust this person pretty well, but I love when you and he agree.
Well, the one I do like is I'm going to go back to the well with Southern, and this is a road team. Okay, guys, remember, this is a road team. But this is a team off a loss. Okay, they lost over the weekend against Alabama A&M. It was just an ugly game for Southern University. I mean, they couldn't hit any shots. It was ugly. And it was one of those games for Alabama A&M where they just didn't miss. Alabama A&M shot 75% from 2-point range. It's hard to beat.
Yeah, I mean, this is a team that's one of the worst offenses in the country, but they kind of came to life. I mean, hell, they put up 82 points.
And I've talked about—
They haven't done that all season long.
Right. And I've talked about Southern. They're an offense that I like. I think they're the best team in this conference. They're very good against the spread. They've been good on the road all year. When you get into these conferences, you have to understand one thing very much. It's much important. This is not a great offensive conference. Okay. You're not going to get teams that are going to put 95 on a board. They have trouble shooting the basketball. But Southern is a team that, for the most part, is actually pretty good offensively. It is rare to see a team shoot the way they do from three. They're shooting at 39% in conference from three. I think they bounce back in a big way. I like them in this spot. Alabama State, I think, struggles to score. I don't think they go off like they did the other night. And if I'm going to take a road team in this conference, it's the second game of a back-to-back. They're already on the road. Okay. Southern already has their loss on the road. Now it's time to right the ship. They generally bounce back off losses this year. You look at in their losses in conference, had one against Pine Bluff, bounced back an away game, and a 14-point win on a Monday against Mississippi Valley last time out. So I like this spot for Southern University. I think they get the job done tonight. That's one I ended up playing. I will admit, guys, and I'm going to make this vocally clear, I didn't play anything for a full unit tonight. I don't love this card. I'm not going to force stuff.
That's a good question,
I had
Jeff.
a pretty
I've
bad
never
weekend.
heard, and I talk about it a lot with different people, is making sure that you manage your bankroll correctly. So with college basketball, what would you say is your average bet? 1 unit, 2 unit, half unit?
This is how I do it. 1 unit's what I do. Now, in
Okay.
non-conference play, I bet a half unit. There will be
Okay.
certain Mondays where, like, you get a card like this, I'm not going to go crazy. I'm just
Like
kind of at a
Saturday
point
when
now.
when you had I don't know, would you have 5 or 6 games?
Yeah,
Yeah.
right.
So you're betting a unit just on each of those flat, right? Like you don't
Yeah.
have a best bet. You're not going
No,
crazy with, okay.
I bet what I like. Now, again, there are certain days of the week, i.e. Monday or Friday, where I'm going to limit the exposure that I have because, again, this Super Bowl week this week, you got props, you get all sorts of stuff. And look, I'll be real. As I said, I didn't have a great week last week, so I want to tiptoe around. I know there'll be better cards on Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, and again,
Yep.
it's a sparse card, so
It just is. I mean, listen, the 2 games that I'm going to bring to the table tonight are the 2 tightest lines on the board, and that's because the bookmakers know those are going to be the most heavily bet games. Probably 70+% of the money tonight being bet at the Barstool Sportsbook will be on Duke at Miami and Texas at Kansas. It's
right,
just bottom line because people
absolutely.
want to watch what they can watch and what they're familiar with.
One that I'm betting small as well. And again, a lot of this goes to the fact of the reason I'm betting these teams smaller is because over the years, you betting a lot on these types of teams is volatile. Okay. They're not the greatest of teams. Now, Southern's been pretty good to me, but when I'm betting on a team like Pine Bluff, I've got to realize this is not a great basketball team.
That they're a 10-13 team. Yeah. I
Yeah.
mean, it's
Now,
sometimes
again, I think they're
sometimes when you play in the shit, you get a little dirty. I mean,
right. No, exactly. And that's the thing. Like, I do notice that they are better this year defensively. I think their coach is better. I think it's a pretty decent matchup for them here. And Jackson State's dealing with, from what I understand, one of their best players is injured. He didn't play over the weekend. I think this is kind of a sleepy spot. I don't think Pine Bluff's that bad. When you look at a lot of their step ups, Pine Bluff's actually pretty solid, man. Look at the game they played Oklahoma in, TCU. They hung in some games this year. It's not going to be easy. They're not a good basketball team, but I feel like, to me, 4 was a little high. I think Jackson State's, if they win, I think it's close. But these are 2 games that I took a little shot on both ways, Pine Bluff and Southern. What was the game that you wanted to talk about?
yeah, I got to ask. So speaking of just not good teams, and even a couple of guys in the comments are asking, a 2-22 team from Green Bay, Wisconsin, facing a 16-7 Milwaukee team. This line is high. One of the guys in the questions is asking about Milwaukee minus 9.5 first half. I think it's even higher. I think it might be 10.5 now. Full game spread 17.5. At what point do you just say, all right, listen, this team we know has no shot of winning, right? In theory, like the spread indicates they've only won 2 games this year against Uwe Pui and UMKC. That is it. They have one of the longest losing streaks in the country. Yet, my guy sent me an email this morning that said, listen, I think this is just one of those spots where this is a case of too many points for Milwaukee. They played Detroit Mercy on deck. It's not like they have some big rivalry or anything like as a flat spot. He just said that he makes this game 15. He thought this number was a little overblown.
Yeah, I would agree. And I know who sent you this because I know he's been involved with Monmouth recently, which has been a great sign. Look, I've always been for this. I don't think that teams like Milwaukee should be laying over, I'll be honest, 13-14 to a team. They're just not that good. Now, here's the thing with Green Bay, and I'll put this out there. Green Bay I have as the second worst team in America.
Yep.
Okay. You talk about IUPUI. They just lost IUPUI over the weekend, scored 53 points and lost by 15. This is a bad team. They just fired their coach, Will Ryan. Now, Will Ryan is the son of Bo Ryan, who used to be at Wisconsin. Big time coach. One of my favorite coaches ever.
So I see, and of course, because I don't follow the Horizon League or the Summer League or any of these other, the SWAC, any of these other conferences. That is always fun. When did they fire Will Ryan?
I want to say 2 weeks ago, maybe.
Yeah, okay. That's kind of not really a play. I sometimes do like to jump on teams. They get a little rejuvenated, after they fire a coach or a manager or anything like that, if you will. But 2 weeks is probably.
I mean, I still think, though, when you look at this game, like, I think if anything that helps Green Bay a little, I mean, they're kind of moved on from it. They're a little bit more into a groove. What we have to realize with these 2-win teams, you try to perform as best you can and do what you can do. That said, you look at this number. It opened 18, went down to 17.5. Now it's down to 16.5. I liken this. I mentioned this game. I always remember this because I was at Cyber Monday for Barstool. I was at the office, and Troy played Arkansas. And it was a similar spot. Arkansas was hosting them on a Monday night. It was just a sleepy game. They weren't going to be up for it. And Troy was up at the half, I believe. And I think they ended up losing by like 12 or something. But yeah, listen, I get why he likes this. I think this is a great spot. I don't think Milwaukee's very good. I don't think their talent is – they don't have Patrick Baldwin or something like they did last year. Yeah, if I could get 17.5, I would have interest with that. I think anything above 15 is probably worth a look.
Okay.
I agree with that. You have to realize, though, in the end, you don't want to look at yourself at 9 o'clock or whenever this game is and say –
and when they're down 30 going, what was I thinking? I mean, some of the guys are saying that in the comments.
And that's a prime – Kelly, I'll tell you a story about that. One of the plays I had this weekend, okay, and this is a standard bet for me. Whenever I see UMKC in the Summit League as a dog of more than 9 or 10 points, I'm betting them because they play a style that is not conducive to be blown out in. Marvin Menzies is a good coach. They play slow. They already had beaten or played really well against Oral Roberts. They hung in the game the first time, and I thought, okay, they're at home here. Oral Roberts, a little fat and happy. They've blown everyone out in this conference. I'm going to take the points. I go out. I look at the score. They're down like 70-42. And I'm thinking, all right, well, bad bet. But, you have these plays you make, and you have to use what you use. And the guy that sent you this is a great handicapper, and he knows what he's doing. And this is the difference between people like me and you and him and just guys that bet. I think for me, I'm willing to realize that I'm going to make my bets. They lose. But I will look back. I can't play Milwaukee here. It's just not in my blood to do it.
Yeah.
So I get fully.
Yeah. And listen, I'm in the same boat as you. Because when I saw that in our group chat this morning, I was like, what in the, like, I know I made that face.
But sharp people agree.
Yeah, they do. And that's kind of the difference here. Again, remember, we're betting numbers, not teams. A lot of comments in here, asking about different things. I do agree. I think my threshold of betting a really gross team like Nebraska yesterday is probably what I'm capable of. But the good news is I have to go to a wine tasting, Jeff. So it's kind of like that like weird toaster oven. You just set it and forget it. I'm not going to watch a second of this game. I'm not going to be rude and be on my phone checking scores. Let's just hope I get back home. I log into my Barstool Sportsbook account, and there's some extra money in there because they lost by 16.
Keep in mind, okay, in the 10 wins Milwaukee has in conference, 7 have come by 10 or less. Okay, so, and most of them are 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Like, they're not a team that blows teams out. And you look at the other games that they played. I mean, they lost to Oakland by 22, lost in overtime to Wright State, also lost another game to Wright State. I mean, you look at the first time they played IUPUI, beat them by 13. You haven't played Green Bay yet, but I don't.
I want to address one more comment. Woo, 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 Kenny Woo. Managing a bankroll to a successful gambler is like a diet to a successful person losing weight. Doesn't matter how much you work out. It's 80% diet. Doesn't matter how many winners you pick. It's 80. Thank you. This is something I try to preach all the time because it's something I had to learn. You can't get drunk and bet $5,000 on a 1-game sample size. Yeah, 50% of the time you're going to win that, and it feels great. The other 50% of the time when you lose it, and you have to call your parents and be like, hey, I can't make rent at the end of the month now because I'm an idiot. Like, those are the type of thing I do think most people have to learn the hard way. But once you learn bankroll management, and once you understand what your threshold is per game, it is what it is. Like I had a buddy, he asked me about the Chiefs game versus the Bengals. I love it. Call me. I love it. I said, you loved Georgia last week in the Natty. What'd you bet on Georgia? Oh, well, I only bet a couple dimes on Georgia. I said, so why are you going to bet 10 dimes on the Chiefs? You don't even as much as like Georgia. And he just sat there and paused. He goes, that's why I called you. Thanks, bye. And I think he knew the answer himself. He needed to have somebody reiterate it.
Reassurance, right?
And that's exactly why I stand up here and I say all these things and I talk all the time, because guess who needs to tell themselves? Me. I am really, really bad at remembering to do things. So now I just have it set on the Barstool Sportsbook app. You can set your normal bet size. That's it. It just automatically is there. And I just click submit. And that's it. Just if you flat bet, you're gonna be.
That's how I do it. I mean,
you have to.
Yeah,
I don't have to.
I set aside, I bet the games I like. I'm not a big player. I mean, as far as the amount of games I'm betting, like some of these guys, I mean, guys, I know guys that, and there's a guy in particular. I'm not going to say who he is.
A day, like what?
Well, no, there's a guy in particular. I'm not going to say who it is. He bets every game in a card, every game on a Saturday. He's out in Vegas. Younger guy. You know what I'm talking about.
Yeah, Greg's a nice guy. But look at what he gets over the course of the season. He keeps his record going, and he's like 385, 395, and 14. It's
and for like a college basketball season, he's like 3,760 and 3,440. And like I believe, I don't know his unit amount, but I think it's quite low. I mean, it's probably
Jeff, it cannot be. There is no way, unless he's got millions of dollars that I don't know about. I mean, we're talking in play for myself, because there's my games. We have a couple of guys that I tail in the group. We have a couple of guys that we fade. Jeff's in the group here. Sean's in the group. Like, we all follow a couple of guys that we know are just really, really bad gamblers. And when they happen to like a side that I liked the other side of but didn't quite get to the window, you're going to get me to the window, because now I know that this square doesn't like it. And next thing you know, I end up having 15 units in play on a Tuesday, and I'm even going, well, what the hell? I didn't mean to play this much, but a lot of smoke signals.
And the thing is, like when the case of that person we were talking about, that's just how he does things, right? He puts like, we're all different. I've talked to him about this before. When him and I used to talk, I used to say like, wow, because we were polar opposites. Like, I could sit here and talk about any game, but I don't play that many games. He plays all of them, and we all do it differently. But that's just what works for him. And you're right. I think
everybody knows. Fade Dennis. Poor Dennis. I don't think Dennis even knows that we all have a group chat called Fade Dennis, but it is true. It is fun. And no, Sean, I'm not calling you the square. I'm calling Dennis the square. And
there are certain really people that I fade as well. I'm not going to lie. I can't say who, but I do.
Dennis doesn't know. He doesn't know that he's friends of friends, and he just doesn't know. I mean, he's an older guy, and he just texts our buddy. He's like, hey, I like the Chiefs in the Super Bowl. I like this. And like, it's just random occurrences. And some days we don't hear from him for like 3 weeks. And then he just comes back firing on a Saturday.
Some people do that. They get hot, they go away, then they come back. Nearly 400 people in here watching on YouTube.
Love that for us.
Thank you for watching. If you're watching on Twitter, welcome in as well. Anywhere you're watching, thank you for being here. By the way, Kenny Woo mentions that diet is 80% diet is how you lose weight. I will, and I continue to say this, if you work out, at least where I'm at in my life, if you work out, I essentially eat what I want. To me, it's more about doing
you're
that.
In a maintenance schedule, right?
No, you're right. If you
it's completely different.
Yeah, you can't. That's 100%. You can't sit there and people think because you do intermittent fasting, you only eat once a day, you can go out and eat McDonald's every meal, and it's like a bunch of sugar, and it's like, well, no.
Well, if you're Ocho Cinco versus science, because he's literally science. I mean, the guy's like just naturally like 7% body fat at 45 years old. I mean,
some people just have. I follow a guy on. He's local to me, a friend of mine. This kid on Instagram every day. He's eating donuts and cheesesteaks and pizza and all this crazy stuff. And he does it every day. And I see him out on occasion. I say to him, bro, how do you eat the way you do? Like, you don't even work out. He's like, I don't know. I just have a metabolism. I don't.
Yeah.
Some people have that. Unfortunately, I don't. So.
Yeah. And I don't either. Luckily, when I did start putting on weight, I went and saw a doctor and they diagnosed me with a thyroid problem. Thank God. Because if I let it keep going undiagnosed, we've seen people like put on 40 pounds like that at 5'3". That's actually not true at all.
Read that comment.
No, there. I'm not going to read it because it's worse than Ryan.
Yo, these people are hilarious. I'm actually at the lowest weight I've ever been at, and I've not gained anything back. I
think this is the good news, and this is what I say on a couple other shows that I actually do the hosting and moderate. I love when people comment, good, bad, whatever. It helps the algorithm. So just keep it coming. You want to trash Jeff? You want to lie about him? You want to say something terrible about me? Let's
see,
go.
that's where it gets to, Kelly. When there's nothing more they can say, it reverts to lies, just stupid stuff made up.
Okay, so like, for example, right? Like I've got a ton of people blocked. We know Rico's got a ton of people blocked. I don't know how many you have.
I do.
Mine
too,
are basically people that are disgusting or that have blatantly lied about me. Yep. I will not block people. They can be like, you're a fucking bitch. You're this, you're that. Like, you're ugly, whatever. Like, I'm not going to block you for that. But if you lie about me and have some crazy I mean, there was stuff like years ago that I'm like, I remember one of the rumors that was going around on Twitter. I was pregnant by Dave Koken. If you guys, anybody know Dave? Love Dave.
I do. Good guy.
Yeah, love Dave. I've spent a lot of time with him. He has taught me a lot. Never had sex with Dave. Can confirm. Dave almost fell out of his chair in the studio. But like, I blocked that guy. And then like years later, he comes up to me in the book. He's like, why'd you block me? I'm like, bro, because you're dumb. Like, I'm not gonna.
It's like the self-awareness of these people is just amazing. They just don't have it. And it's like, luckily, this is a good thing about blocking. I don't need to explain to you why I block people. It's my account. I could do what the fuck I want.
There you go.
So,
yeah. I mean, I'm just saying, like, so like the blatant lies is the thing that really bothers me. I mean, I'll go back and forth with fans. I you know, if you say something that's just like completely off the wall, then yeah, I'm just going to tell you to fuck off.
Yep. Let's get to one final game here. Kansas and Texas. It's the big game on the board. Kansas laying 4.5. Texas, again, we haven't necessarily seen Texas have that kind of really impressive win. I will admit, coming back though the way they did on Saturday was pretty impressive. That first 10 minutes of the second half was huge. 26-13, they outscored.
I literally just turned it off. I had better games to watch. I was having a good day. My girlfriend was watching the game. She's texting me. I go, Stacey, I don't fucking care. And she's like, what? What do you mean? And I go, I didn't bet this game. I've got bigger fish to fry. And right now we're starting to see some regression from the Wildcats. And why? Because they don't stop turning the freaking ball over. And you turn the ball over at that rate, teams are going to start to capitalize. And that's exactly what Texas did in that second half. K-State was up, like 11 at half? Something like that. And it was just really, really, really frustrating from a K-State fan perspective. And I considered, you and I talked about Texas and the revenge angle, but I told you about these home teams. K-State is one of those home teams I did not want to step in front of at home. And there were several times I thought there was really smart people that did. Texas Tech, Oklahoma State, KU. And it was just not it for me. And maybe I should have and cashed a little ticket against my alma mater, but I was not willing to do that right now. And Texas has still kind of been a do not bet on team for me. We saw the ugly loss versus Tennessee, Iowa State. Listen, this team is really solid considering all of the trials and tribulations they went through this year. Do you think maybe they've just finally turned a corner now?
Yeah, I had this at 3. If you're going to give me 4.5, I lean Texas. I mean, I think Kansas, I think, has problems. I don't think they're just going to immediately fix themselves. They're not very deep. I think that's a problem.
No, they're not. That's their biggest problem. They get in foul trouble late. They are in trouble. Kansas
doesn't really have much of a front court either. And I feel like if you're going to give me some of the Texas's wings against Grady Dick and Jalen Wilson, I mean, I like my matchups there. They're just not a real deep basketball team. This could be a get-right game for them, but Texas is a team that generally plays teams close. You look at last year, Texas beat them. The other game was an OT win, but it wasn't anything crazy. I didn't get there with this game. I didn't bet it. I definitely lean Texas, though. I have a stubbornness with Texas. I think they're surely, to me right now, the better team between these two. It's not by much, but you also look at just how good they are from the free throw line. They've been great from 3 this year. I think Marcus Carr is one of the better players on the court, really outside of Wilson. I just feel like this game is a coin flip. If you're going to give me 4.5, I lean with Texas here.
Yeah, look, KU's got a couple of keys to victory, if you will, and that is they've got to get in to that 90-point territory, right? If this team can go out there offensively, what we've seen from them several times this year, I think that they could put Texas away. I have my concerns about that, but I also have my concerns about taking a dog in Allen Fieldhouse. Now, I finally just started looking at KU's record in Allen Fieldhouse because a Jayhawk fan was like, you always say Allen Fieldhouse and this and that. Well, we're just Yeah, well, they're just 4-8 against the spread now in Fieldhouse this year. And I think that the big problem is that it is because they aren't very deep. And so they're losing games late. When guys get into foul trouble, there's not enough guys in the rotation. When Grady Dick is expected to do everything, it doesn't really work out well for this team. And Texas, again, just got a nice win over Baylor. Then they went into Manhattan and beat K-State. From everything I understand, they stayed the night in Manhattan, went to Lawrence, so they didn't go back to Texas. So there's not like some sort of travel fatigue. Jayhawks have really well, fuck, Jeff, they've just been really inconsistent. If you just look at their schedule and what games they've lost, which games they've won, and I joked that after the K-State loss that I was at, K-State broke KU. They lost 3 in a row. 2 of them were at home. I think this is a very off KU team, but I will say this. I do still think it's their conference to lose.
We'll see. I mean, I definitely respect Kansas, but I just think, to me, if you're going to give me, more than the allotted amount that I have, I think Texas is better than they are. I just do. But you're right. I mean, this could be a get-right game where they come out and win this game, 68-59 or something. It's a low-scoring game. I kind of like the under a little bit as well. I think this is a game that it's probably first to 70 wins. Both games last year were pretty low-scoring for the most part.
That's a good point, too. They were.
Yeah.
Yeah, I just see if KU's got to do it, they've got it. They got to get hot from 3, which we know that they can. And let's be honest, they got to make their free throws, Jeff. I mean, these are just basic fundamentals, right? And K-State screwed around themselves and missed a bunch of free throws against this KU team. And even I thought they were going to pull within, they were down, what, 10, 11. They ended up obviously losing by 12 in that one. But that's because KU kind of let them back in by not making their own free throws. It was just a really frustrating game. I ultimately think I'm going to stay off both of these teams tonight, or both these games tonight, and just play the one NBA game that I'm playing.
Yeah, I think ultimately they're both kind of tough, but, I'd lean, one favorite with Miami. I'd lean one dog with Texas. The other two, though, I played small. I like Pine Bluff +4, and I'll play a Southern -6.5. Okay. Other than that, not much out there. If you want to trust Tarleton State, have fun. They're not a good road team. I do think it's a good matchup for them. And UTA is not very good. So they're one of the, they turn the ball over a high amount in Tarleton. They want to turn you over. So other than that, I didn't have much on this card. Let's talk a little Super Bowl because you mentioned Stephen Shea, who says the Eagles are going to win by double digits. I got to be honest. I don't think that they're going to roll and be up 20 the entire game. Could this be a 27-23 game and they score with 3 minutes to go and win 34-23 or something? Sure, absolutely. I think that's more likely to happen than the Chiefs doing it. I believe in my heart Eagles should be a favorite. I think they're the better team outside of quarterback, and I don't know that it's a distinct advantage. Mahomes is terrific, and anybody that says Hurts a better quarterback is stupid. They don't know what they're talking about. But other than that, remember, Mahomes, a little gimpy, still a little, hurt. I think
here's what I want to know. What are you hearing about Jalen? Because Jalen's not 100% either.
I think Jalen Hurts is good to go. I think he's as close to healthy as it's going to get. I look at every unit on the field. Okay, we start with offensive line. I've made the case. I think this is the best offensive line in the history of the NFL. I believe that, honestly.
Whoa.
I think they're that good. I think Kelsey is a
we know Kelsey's a stud.
Hall of Famer. I think he could be the best center ever. I think Lane Johnson's probably the best tackle in the NFL. I think their guards are terrific. And I look at the other side, Mailata. I mean, he turned himself into an all-pro quickly. So when you look at how good this group is up front, I think Stoutland is a legend for how good he can coach in the offensive line. You look at the run game, I think the Eagles, Miles Sanders is very serviceable. He's 1,000-yard back this year. I think he's got a bit of a chip on his shoulder to try to get that next big contract for himself. I think from a receiver standpoint, the Eagles are better. Now, Kelsey is the best overall skill player on the field. But I'll tell you this, A.J. Brown ain't far behind. You look at the defense, is it comparable? I mean, come on.
No, I don't think the defenses are comparable at all. And that is my big caveat with Kansas City. I mean, let's just be honest. Yeah. It really is. But there's some question marks I have on both sides. We'll leave it at that. And I think for me to get involved with the side or total would just be foolish. I want to watch this game. I'm hosting a party. It's going to be a great time. I've got my $3,000 in Super Bowl squares. I have definitely been overserved. I wrote it all down today, and I'm like, did I really buy that many friggin' squares? Because I have a problem when anybody texts me, I just say yes. And then I Venmo $100, or I Venmo $500, or I Venmo $1,000. And next thing you know, I've got all these squares. I did tell my mom that I was going to make her split some of them with me. But I think right now, the best market for this game by far is either the Parlay Plus feature and put together a fun parlay for the game, or going underneath the Barstool prop section. I like over 5.5 sacks. Plus 110, and I like over 3.5 field goals, Jeff. Plus, what did I get it at? Plus 135. And I think that this is what we're going to see. We know Philadelphia has a really great pass rush, right? We know that they are going to put pressure on Patrick Mahomes, especially because his mobility is in question, right? If they can get to him, I mean, this pass rush, I believe, had the most sacks out of all the teams in the NFL this year. And Kansas City, we know that their defense is not great, but we've got to give them a little bit more credit. They have a really good run defense, and we're going to see how those two kind of clash, right? That's kind of my spot here, is trying to guess, for lack of better words, how the game's going to go. Because why? I made the Eagles a 1-point favorite. So there's no value here for me.
I think 50.5 is too low in this game. I think
made the game 51.
Yeah, I think this gets into the high 50s. I mean, I remember these two.
Jeff's over here talking about the coin flip. He already knows. I'm definitely betting heads. Heads, always.
These two teams played last year, and I know last year's not a great example, but I mean, both teams scored at will. I think it was a 37-23. I was there. I remember it. This is an Eagles team that, look, again, they're the better defense, but I'm not going to just say I think they're going to shut the Chiefs out. I think you see they probably get a stop or two more than the Chiefs do, but I still think they give their fair share of points up. And I look at myself and I say, I think the most likely score in this type of game is like 31-24, 35-27, something like that. I think 50.5 is too low. I don't know if this is quite the Patriots-Eagles in 2018, but I think these quarterbacks
crazy game, just
I think the
flying
Eagles
everywhere.
Likely get a stop or two more. Maybe you get, Eagles have been a big turnover team this year. It's just, to me, I think the over is probably the best play here, honestly. I think these are two elite offensive.
As somebody that leans towards the under, there's no way I'm betting the under. That's why I'm betting, for me, things that correlate to the under, because these lines are the tightest they've been all year long, right? And we know that the lines are going to move based on public and sharp money in the Super Bowl. It's a standalone event. There is no such thing as sharps versus squares here, right? I know really sharp guys that took Eagles +1 when it opened. I know really sharp guys that now have Chiefs +2 in pocket. And it is what it is. I don't think I want to rack my brain to try to guess how this game's going to play out. I think that you find some prop bets that correlate to that, and you're going to have action throughout the game, right? Like, I can see it now. It's like late fourth quarter. It doesn't even matter. One of the teams is up double digits, and there's a sack that comes in, and I just go absolutely bananas in my living room, and everybody looks at me like I'm an idiot because the sack didn't matter. Well, it matters to me when you get 6 of them, And that's how I enjoy the Super Bowl. These prop bets, I mean, there is like, if you went to the Barstool Sportsbook and picked up the packet, it's like a freaking phone book. And so to be able to go sift through these, find some value, and, make it fun.
Absolutely. I do and will say I try to always be unbiased when it comes to the Eagles. If they're not good, I'll tell you they're not good. And if I don't think they're going to win, I don't tell you I think they're going to win. I think they're the better team. I think Nick Sirianni is a really good coach. I think Andy Reid's a really good coach too. But I get the weird feeling the pupil outduels the old guy here. I think, Steichen's been terrific for them as a play caller. It comes down to the trenches. I think the Eagles are a little bit better in the trenches, but I think
I would agree with that.
It's important to say. I mean, it is hard to bet against Kansas City. It's not an easy thing
especially
to do.
As a dog. They've been really, 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 really great as an underdog. And I will say this, like, my biggest question marks, and why I told everybody originally I wasn't going to just rush to bet KC. And they said, why? And I go, Juju Smith-Schuster. I want to know about Kelsey's back spasms. I want to know about Mahomes' ankle. I want to know about the 3 other receivers that are hurt. Mecole Hardman, Kadarius Toney. There's a lot of question marks on that side of the ball.
It's the Super Bowl.
Didn't an Eagles guy just get in trouble? Didn't like an lineman or somebody just get in trouble?
Let me talk about that and what you just said. I think that's a good point. I think it also is important to realize though that remember after this game, you got what 8 months off, 6 months off. You got to do what you got to do. It's the Super Bowl. It's like Lane
100%.
Johnson. Lane Johnson's had an injury for weeks now, and he's waiting till the Super Bowl ends or wherever they end to get surgery on it. I think you'll see most people play. Now, here's the reason I didn't address Josh Sills getting arrested on rape charges. Here's something that I want to make clear. Josh Sills doesn't play. I don't think Josh Sills has played this year, quite frankly. He is a practice squad up and out kind of guy. I also think it's important to mention, okay, this is an allegation.
Correct.
Okay. This happened 5 years ago, allegedly.
Ooh, see, I haven't read anything up on it. I just got a text about it. I didn't even look into it.
But no, this is not going to affect. He doesn't play regularly. He's not even a backup that would play. He's like a third string guy. I actually didn't even realize he was still on the team. I know at one point I thought he was cut, but he is obviously going to be cut now, I'd have to imagine. We'll see how this plays out. That said, I don't think it affects the game too much. All in all, I think both teams are pretty healthy, really. I mean, I think they'd be happy with where they are, with a couple of nicks and bruises,
Right.
It's better not having someone at all. You know what I'm saying? But yeah, I think, I think you make the number where you said it would be. I think it's a very tough game. I want to see the Eagles win. I think they will win. I think the play is on the over. I do. I think, you don't have any, it's not an outside, it never is. I think it's always inside, but I think this is a fun back and forth game.
Okay. And I would agree with that. One last question, just from your Eagles fan perspective, if you will, or you can give it to me from a handicapping perspective. I always find the argument of rust versus rest really interesting, right? So when you have a really hot team, and this is just regular season, right, if you will, and then they go into a bye week, or they're going into the playoffs and they have a first round bye. Sometimes that can throw teams out of their rhythm. Any concerns about this Eagles team?
Yeah, I think that's in the back of my head, something that worries me. They really have not been tested, have they? I mean, remember, they outscored, all in all, they did outscore their opponents 69-14 in 2 games. But, I think the big knock and why I think some of the fans in this town don't get it. And they always say, well, are you always coming at the Eagles? And it's like, well, the coming at the Eagles is warranted. I mean, remember, they had literally something happen that if it didn't happen, if Brock Purdy is healthy, I still think the Eagles win, but it wouldn't have been as easy. I mean, you had Brock Purdy who went out of the game. Josh Johnson then gets injured, and then Brock Purdy has to come in and he can't throw the
broken elbow.
I mean, it's, but yeah. to say that, the Eagles are like, I saw some idiot in these comments talking about Jalen Hurts got benched for Tua Tagovailoa, so we shouldn't bet on Jalen Hurts. I mean, some of this stuff is just idiotic.
What?
Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah,
this is the kind of shit you see in some of these chats.
Yeah, like that just kind of stuff is just nonsense for clicks and arguments, and that's just the one caveat that I have here with the Eagles. I just kind of have that, like,
yeah,
and again, I mean, I heard somebody.
Well, let me ask you though. Let me ask you something. So, I don't blame refs. It's not really my thing. They're bad in every sport, unfortunately.
I just bitch about them in their entirety.
Right. But I think the Chiefs, other than that last call, which was a late hit, should have been called. Other than that, though, there were some very good calls given to the Chiefs. That game could have went either way. I thought, I think both these teams deserve to be here. I think this is the best matchup possible. There's a lot of great storylines. And I think the neutral, the person that is just watching this game, I think they're going to really enjoy it from the fact that both are great offense. It should be a legendary game. I would be surprised if it's a double-digit win. I think it's a close classic. I'll say 30-27 Eagles. I think
had a guy that I don't know if he moved the stool when it was +2, but he has a little parlay plus going, if you will. He tweeted me and my buddy VR earlier and said he has Chiefs +3 and was wondering what he should do. And I said, you have a great bet. Don't do anything. Like, you got a key number in the Super Bowl. I actually think it is going to be a 3-point game either way. I would love for this game to land 1 for hilarity purposes, like 31-30 or 21-20, something just obnoxious, 28-27, just so I could laugh and be like, the Super Bowl landed 1. But there was a comment in there that I wanted to address. And I'm not speaking about the Barstool Sportsbook. I'm not speaking about anything. I'm speaking about sportsbooks in their entirety. The dumbest thing that I see people do is lay like 115, 120, minus 125 on things as far as prop bets go, like the coin flip. Do not do this. It's minus 103 at the Barstool Sportsbook. I'm going to leave it at that. Do not lay some exorbitant amount of juice. You want to know what you really do? Go to your Super Bowl party. Find a guy like Jeff. Jeff, do you like heads or tails? I like tails. Perfect. I like heads. Handshake.
I got to be honest.
I don't know what to tell you to do. Because
I'm just going to say
if you're laying juice on a coin flip, I can't handle you.
Well, I don't think you should be betting that to begin with, to be honest.
No, but I understand why people do, Jeff, because
I don't.
It's fun.
And
it's right out of the gate, and it's
but Kelly,
fuck yeah, I'm excited.
I hear you, but if you want to do that, just go to the casino and play roulette. It's a 50 shot. Do it. Like I'm not in this. I'm not looking like I don't get it.
No, it's not. It's not a good bet. It's not a good bet, especially not laying juice with it. Like I said, if you feel compelled, you're at an area where there is somebody else that you know and you trust. Make a handshake bet with no juice. And just say, hey, you got tails, I got heads. If that's something you really feel compelled to do, trust me, because it is so bad. It is, it like makes my skin crawl to see these bet slips. Cal, I bet tails with you. I bet heads with you. And it's like minus 115. I'm like, what did you do? Why did you do that?
I feel the same way when people, like it being a college football season, I see people laying 140, 160 on win totals. And I think to myself, like, first of all, you're tying your money for 6 months, betting a win total,
7 months, yeah.
You're also laying $1.60 to win $1 on a flip. Like I don't get that. It's just not for me. I don't, if that's how some of you.
I did lay 180 this year in the gross. This is the most juice I've ever laid on K-State over 6.5 wins because I was very, very, very confident that this team would win 8 games, and then they lost to Tulane, and I almost jumped off my roof because I was like, "Are you kidding me? This is going to be the difference between 6 and 7 wins right here."
I wish we, we can't really talk about this stuff, but I wish we could talk about some of the wild things I used to see, in some of the markets that we used to be involved. I mean, I remember on a Super Bowl Sunday, it was something. I mean, and there are certain individuals, some of which are not even around anymore because of things caught up to them. But
oops.
Yeah, like I'm not going to say who, but yeah. It was a crazy time back then.
Yeah, you see guys laying like minus 390 and stuff. And listen, I understand why it works in boxing. I understand why it works in UFC. But like literally on a 50-50 proposition, such as a coin flip, like just don't do that. Just please don't. For me,
yeah, there are ones where, if you can find some good info on stuff, I've laid wild prices on stuff. I've laid 650 before. Sometimes you just find things that work. But
I understand that. And I'm not knocking it.
Not on a coin flip. But Kelly, good to see you. I'm sure we'll
always.
I'm sure if we'll see you again.
I'll see you on Wednesday, right?
Yeah, and I'm sure I'll have some props by then, and we'll jump into the tomfoolery of props.
I just saw that Valiant Crusade against tomfoolery. I'm just trying to help you guys become better bettors because
you're right. You're 100%.
Every mistake under the sun, I have tweeted out crazy things and had bookmakers jump in the comments and made me look really stupid. And it is what it is. But learn from my mistakes. And then maybe you can save yourself some bucks along the way.
I also don't like, I always hear, and Kelly, you've even said it. And I think we've all said it at some point. And I just look at how I used to bet and I used to relate. I used to justify betting a parlay and I say, well, it's just lunch money or whatever. But, here's the thing. And I told you this story. Back in the day, I used to win betting straight bets. And I'd look at the ledger at the end of the week and I'd see I bet 300 in parlays. And it started as lunch money. I'm not in this for lunch. I'm in this to make a bet that's going to win.
Yeah, I see a lot of guys that are like, hey, this is for pizza bets. This is for that.
I don't like that. I don't say that.
Listen, and I don't either, but I know plenty of people that'll throw $5 down on any first touchdown scorer. That kind of stuff I have no qualms with. If you have a bankroll for your straight bets, go for it. I get a lot of shit for my 3-team moneyline parlays that I do in college football and that I have been trying to find in college basketball. I just haven't really had the luck with it this year. And so for me, I do think that if you want to have a separate bankroll for your lunch money, that's fine. But you need to understand that you might as well just throw it in the trash.
Well, why not just take the money? Why not just take the money you're going to include on lunch money and just put more on a game that you actually like?
There you go.
Which we actually have a feel for and you want to bet. But that said, here's what I'll say. Bet what you want. All we can do is help and try to teach it. But you can do what you want. The good thing is, I never tell another man how to spend his money. Bet your money. You want to give money to prostitutes? Go ahead. You want to give money to buy heroin? Go ahead.
Did you see Did you see Jersey Jerry's tweet? And he never answered Doug's, by the way. I'm really
I didn't see what his tweet was, nor did I see
he said that, like, you know, sometimes there's better days in life, if you will, right? And, you know, he's talking about his son being born and the Steelers winning the Super Bowl. And the third one was getting a blowjob from 2 prostitutes. And I was like, I had to click it because now I can't look away. And the very first comment is Doug's going, wait, so did you get like a 2-for-1 price? How's this work out? And then Jerry just left us all unread. And I'm like, in the comments, like, I need an answer.
Not for nothing, though. I'm not trying to bring up old employees, but do you know who Mantis is?
No.
All right, so
this is my problem. I was never a stoolie. I loved Barstool. I'd catch glimpses, but I was never in the trenches until I started working.
There was this guy Mantis that used to work at Barstool, and he got a bunch of shit one time because he supposedly paid a hooker for his first sexual experience. It was a wild story. I'll have to send you some shit on it. It's pretty fun. But yeah, listen, as someone that anytime I post something with a woman, I've bought her or paid for her. I know all about that world. There are men that do that. And I'll tell you, we've talked about this, Kelly. There are men that, you know, just kind of like say, hey, I don't want to deal with you, so go away.
Jeff, when's the last time you went to dinner and the woman paid?
Never.
Yeah, that's the whole point. That's my whole point. Like, this is like the argument to me is just so.
I get it. Listen, we're all on the same page, most of us. But there are some people that live on fucking planet Jupiter that don't seem to understand anything. You could cure cancer and they complain it wasn't done fast enough. So I don't reason with people like that. But I do have to look into that, and maybe we can get an answer out of Jerry. I'm
gonna DM him right after this. Like, Jerry, like, can you at least, like, man to woman, can you at least tell me like what kind of discount you got? Because like I almost wrote back like some crazy Vegas type shit how my brain works. Like, well, it depends if they have the same pimp and he negotiated the deal for them. And I was like, wait, just Kelly, just stay out of it. Let Jerry answer the question.
Someday I'll have to talk about my one night in Tijuana.
Oh my God. I don't know.
I'll just quickly preface this. I was 19. I had just graduated high school, and a friend of mine went to San Diego State from here. He went out there, and I went out there for a trip. I'd never traveled outside of Pennsylvania really, other than to Florida with my parents. So I go out there on my own. We go to San Diego. I get to a dorm at San Diego State. I walk in, we're talking, and one of the kids goes, you want to come to Tijuana with us tonight? I said, wait, Mexico? I said, that's got to be far as hell. He goes, no, it's like 20 minutes down the expressway. He said, we'll park, we'll walk in.
Well, yeah, because you're 19, you can drink.
Yeah.
You can do anything.
He said, we'll cross the San Ysidro to be great. So I said, all right, cool. You know, he knew Mexico well. He's from Mexico. And I told my friend, I said, dude, is that really safe? Because like even back then I was following like the drug wars and stuff. And I knew like Mexico was super dangerous. But I'll have to tell that story sometime about the things we did that night and how crazy it was. And
my dad was stationed at Pendleton. I need to not be there for that episode because then I'll never probably be able to look my father in the eye again. Because I have just known how many times he's probably been to Tijuana, and I probably have a sibling or two down there. And I just want you to know that.
It was and I'm sure he knows this. It's a real, if you're American, it's a real good place for you because they treat you super well. But
the last time I was there at a strip club in Tijuana, all the girls had braces, and I was just mind blown because like I have always been like kind of rude about certain things where I'm like, wow, that girl's hot, but why would she get lipo extensions before fixing her teeth? The girls in Mexico got it right. They're out there stripping, shaking it, and they all got braces.
Well, I think they treat prostitution in Mexico the way I think a civilized world should do it. I don't think you should ever tell someone they can't have sex with somebody. If they want to pay for it, that's their business, you know?
Jack, I was kidding. Jack, take a joke. I love.
But I'll tell you down there real quick, they all have like a plumber would have a certification and he could be a plumber, or a barber has one. They have them as well. They are legalized.
Well, it's just like Nevada. It's legal in Nevada in every county but Clark. They are regulated. They are tested. They have a place to work safely, if you will. And I mean, I don't have a problem with it.
Me either. But another law we are lawfully behind in. That said, good to see you, Kelly. We'll end it there. I'll tell you that story someday. Everyone have a good night. Back to the original thought. I have small plays tonight on Southern University -6.5, and I like Pine Bluff +4, both half unit plays. Kelly, we'll see you later this week.
I'll see you on Wednesday. We'll be back on Saturday Spaces. I think Megan is going to be there, even though she's had a little hiatus the last couple of weeks. I think the only thing I'm going to get to the window on tonight, Jeff, I'm going to pass. Did have some thoughts on KU and Miami, but I think I'm just going to get involved. I took OKC +3.5. You guys will start to see some more NBA plays from me. I don't usually play like November, December, January. There's too many unknowns. There's too many guys that sit last minute, and then it gets too frustrating. But I think we're starting to see where the cream's rising to the top, and Golden State's just not the cream right now. OKC's playing a lot harder ball and catching a couple points. No Steph Curry. We'll see how it goes.
Good luck. I'll probably get on that with you. Thank you. Good to see you, Kelly. We'll see you later in the week. And good to see everybody. I'm back tomorrow, Tuesday, same time, same place, here on the Barstool Sports YouTube channel at 4 o'clock. We'll see you later. Bye-bye.